You've been watching live coverage of the funeral of Morrow County Sheriff's Deputy Daniel Sherrer, who we just learned at this hour that most of his family and friends called him Weston. That is and was his middle name, Daniel Weston Sherrer. Very emotional funeral. Pastor Steve Brenneman, who was a former Morrow County Sheriff, did most of the talking today, but we also heard from Attorney General Dave Yost and the current Morrow County Sheriff John Hinton as well. And one of the most astounding things that I got out of today's service was everyone was given little cards. And on this card was a little phrase that Weston wrote when he was 6 years old. And it simply said this, quote, "My big dream is to be a policeman. I want to catch the villains, and I'm willing to risk my life." He said he's willing to risk his life for the people in the United States. He wrote that when he was 6 years old. So many moments and memories were brought up today by different people who addressed those at the funeral. Our Taylor Bruck was there inside the high school. She's now standing by outside for the second part of that service. Taylor, such an emotional day for such a tight-knit, close community of Morrow County.
Yeah, Mindy, absolutely. The service is just now ending. We're outside of Northmore High School in Gallion. And like you said, just a beautiful service for the 31-year-old. You can see behind me an incredible outpour of support from police from literally all over. There are even officers here as far as the New York Police Department, Dallas, and Chicago. So that's about a 5-hour drive, if not more, to come here to celebrate the life of Deputy Sherrer. Now, this parking lot here, you can see it's packed with police cruisers. We just heard from a couple people during the service. It lasted about an hour. We heard from funeral pastor Brenneman, who is the former Morrow County Sheriff. He talked about how Deputy Sherrer fell doing a job he loved. He has given his life in service of the community. And like you mentioned, he was known as Weston, so you might hear that name pop up a couple times today. Daniel Weston Sherrer was what he was known as. Brenneman spoke about how Sherrer was always a curious man. He was inquisitive. He was always seeking knowledge. And he was also a family man. He is survived by his fiancée, Alexandria, his sister, and his 2 parents. So if we have this sound, let's take a listen to what Brenneman said about Weston's love for his family.
He loved people. He loved playing games. He loved video games. He was competitive. He played sports. He played soccer. He wrestled. He played rugby. But it was the camaraderie. It was the time together, the quality time with friends and family that were truly important to him. He loved his family. He loved his mom and dad. He never gave up the opportunity to tell them he loved them.
And we also heard during the ceremony from Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. Yost spoke about how on his last day of his life, he was hoping to stop violence. He was always known to be someone who de-escalated situations, and he died while trying to do just that. Yost said Deputy Sherrer always dreamed of being a police officer. I know you mentioned that he had written that thing in the program when he was 6 years old. He wrote, "My big dream is to be a policeman. I want to catch the villains, and I'm willing to risk my life for the people in the United States." So he did just that, and we want to thank him again for his service. We also heard from friend and teammate Franklin County's Deputy Sheriff Mike Brewer. He talked about the strengths Sherrer demonstrated during the academy and while on the job. Brewer was actually his partner while in training at the academy, 835 hours together as partners, he said. So they were able to get to know each other pretty well. Let's take a moment to listen on how he described his friend.
He had confidence, candidness, connection, capability, calmness, common sense, composure, comfort, clear-headedness, cooperation, cleanliness, coolness, of course, Dan, an immense amount of class.
And he also mentioned that he always had perfect hair. That was a funny moment of this ceremony. I do believe we have some sound from Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. Let's take a moment to listen to what he had to say during the ceremony.
And now with his passing, the completed letter lives on for all of us. What do we read? Service, duty, courage, sacrifice, love.
Now, Deputy Brewer, his friend and his training partner, had a moment where he had all law enforcement officers and dispatchers stand for a moment. He asked them to take a minute each day and check themselves. He said, feel the respect, the admiration, and the love that the community has for them. It's so often forgotten in this job, but the community does really admire them. We also heard from Morrow County Sheriff John Hinton. The sheriff spoke about how Sherrer's always had a smile on his face. We've heard that over the past couple of days, and loved coming to work. He was just an all-around great guy. He said Deputy Sherrer was a man willing to give his life for his community. The sheriff's office, he said, will never forget his memory. He told us prior that he will work to find a memorable way to honor his legacy, because Deputy Sherrer is actually the first deputy killed in the line of duty in Morrow County. So this is something that the community is navigating, as well as the sheriff for the first time. Mindy.
Taylor, the one thing I took away from as well is when the pastor kind of approached everyone and said, I may offend people, but I frankly don't care. And he talked to the members of the media and others who are possibly questioning the training and the policies. And he said, basically, stop, because there's only one man to blame for this, and that is the man who pulled the trigger in this. When we were watching the funeral, we could only get a close-up view of it. I know you were inside, probably more in the back of the high school. How crowded was it inside there?
Mindy, it was a packed room. There was an overflow section. They ended up bringing a couple of those people, a couple of rows of those people from the back into the auditorium, but it was absolutely packed. I stayed in the back because I had to leave earlier, and I didn't want to interrupt, but it was absolutely packed. And you can see, again, just the outpouring of support behind me. Look how many cars are in this parking lot. You can tell that it is, he meant a lot to this community, and he means a lot to really the law enforcement community as a whole.
Did you get a glimpse of the family at all from where you were standing? Just wondering how they're holding up. This is such an emotional time. We expect to lose parents. We expect to lose grandparents. It's so hard when you lose a son or daughter. Were you able to get a glimpse of the family at all, Taylor?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go very far inside, so I wasn't able to see the parents, Alexandria, his fiance. But you can imagine, I mean, this was an open casket. So really, right when you walked in and you saw the open casket, I got emotional. I'm a reporter. I don't even know this guy, but you could feel the emotion. I was already starting to feel myself choke up in the back. So just, you could hear sniffles throughout the entire ceremony. And, you know, we're sending our hearts and our prayers to his family, because obviously this is a really tough time.
Yes, and you bring up such a good point. That's one of the first things I thought as well, that it was an open casket. Normally at events like this, at funerals and ceremonies, it is a closed casket. So yeah, I'm sure that caught people off guard, and it automatically, your emotions just flow out. So what happens now, Taylor? What are you waiting on specifically?
Yeah, so right now we are waiting for everyone to head outside for another ceremony that is going to be specifically with law enforcement. So traditionally, this ceremony will happen at the graveside burial, but a police officer told me earlier that it's just not logistically possible for all of these people to get to that gravesite. It's just not a big cemetery is the word I'm looking for. So what we're going to see here is a traditional 21-gun salute. He said there are bagpipes here. There might be a riderless horse. Actually, if you pan to my right, we see the horses right here, and there is one horse on the way right that will be riderless. This is a symbol of remembrance used to honor fallen police officers. We're told Columbus Police and the Ohio State Highway Patrol may perform what's called a missing man formation with helicopters in the sky. So in this formation, if it happens, you're going to see one aircraft break away from the group. That symbolizes the missing comrade. Now, this ceremony is expected to last around 20 minutes. So right now, everyone is making their way outside. They told us it should be about 10 minutes before everyone gets set up completely. But there are cops standing at attention as they load Deputy Sherrer inside the hearse. After this ceremony, again, a small private burial service will be held at the cemetery. Mindy.
Can we see the actual high school itself of where the people are starting to come out of? And are they starting to come out at all? I can see a little bit behind you. There is some movement there with people.
Oh, yes, they're definitely starting to come out. I know the officer we spoke with earlier, he said getting cops to come outside is like herding horses. So he said it might take a couple minutes, but usually about 10 minutes or so until this ceremony starts. But while we wait, we can recap some of Sherrer's life. You know, the funeral service just ended. Again, he was killed on Memorial Day while responding to a domestic situation. He was 31 years old, born in 1994. He started working in law enforcement in May of 2021, so just a couple years ago. He went through training, the academy, during the pandemic. And like you mentioned earlier, being a police officer was an absolute dream of his. His father told the sheriff, Sheriff Hinton, that he wanted to be a police officer ever since he was 3 years old. Like you mentioned earlier, on that program, he wrote, "My dream is to be a police officer. I want to catch the villains. I'm willing to risk my life for the people in the United States." So just a really powerful example of, you know, this was his dream, and he fulfilled his dream. Now, Sheriff Hinton told us that Deputy Sherrer in previous interviews was a, quote, godsend for the office, the community, and the county. He told us that he was the type of guy that would go out of his way just to see how your day was, crack a joke. He said he was someone that possessed leadership qualities enough to eventually one day potentially become sheriff himself. So that just tells you the character and charisma that Deputy Sherrer had. Now, community members in previous interviews told us that he always made time for people. We actually spoke with a guy named George Taylor the other day who said that he met Deputy Sherrer in a gas station and that he struck up a conversation, and that just goes to show that he was always willing to get to know the community. He always made time for people, so you could tell that he was genuinely a good guy and cared for the community that he worked in. Now, yesterday there was a visitation at the high school from 1 to 7, so at the same place we're at right now. Hundreds of people came through then to pay their respects, and even more showing up today. I mean, this is just truly incredible, witnessing how many law enforcement people are here from all across the state. Again, Sherrer is the first deputy to be killed in the line of duty in Morrow County. So the sheriff is navigating this for the first time. The community is navigating this for the first time. The sheriff told us in a press conference that he wants to do something very memorable to make sure that Deputy Sherrer's life and legacy is honored at the sheriff's department. And he said he's making calls. He's asking people, you know, am I doing what's next? What else do I need to do? He wants to make sure he's checking in with Alexandria, the fiance, the family, just making sure that he's doing everything right because he knows how difficult of a time this is. Now, Sherrer, again, is survived by his fiance, Alexandria, his parents. He has a sister, and of course, his fiance's parents. In lieu of flowers, the family is requesting donations to be made to the Spirit of Hope Fund. We saw this lined up inside when everyone was signing their names as they came in. This is actually in care of Marion General Hospital Foundation, as Deputy Sherrer's late uncle, the former Marion County Sheriff John H. Butterworth, and his wife Phyllis started the fund back in 2013 to assist cancer patients in the area. So if you want to help out or donate anything, they're asking for donations to be made to the Spirit of Hope Fund in lieu of flowers.
Taylor,
Mindy, I'll send it back to you.
Taylor, such a giving and generous family. We're looking at footage right there of Governor Mike DeWine is standing by as well, waiting for the next step of this funeral service to begin. And it's so hard. It is remarkable to think, though, that this is the very first sheriff's deputy killed in the line of duty for Morrow County. So, of course, this is something that the entire county is dealing with for the very first time. And it is remarkable to see such an outpouring of support. Can you describe for us now what you're seeing, how the scene has changed a little bit? It looks like more and more people are starting to filter outside the high school.
Absolutely. They seem to be walking pretty fast. I think they want to get this thing started in the next 5 minutes or so. But like you mentioned, Morrow County is a small county, so this is the first time it's happened. But in general, this has been a pretty tough couple of weeks for law enforcement.
Absolutely.
The same day that Deputy Sherrer was shot, we remember retired Deputy Larry Henderson was killed while directing traffic in Cincinnati. Investigators say that he was intentionally run over by a man that had just watched body camera footage of his 18-year-old son being shot fatally by police. But then just last week on May 28th, 2 Mifflin Township police officers were also shot while conducting a traffic stop. I was covering that intensely that day. Luckily, those 2 officers are in stable condition, but we spoke with an officer today who told us that the second Mifflin Township police officer, he had to undergo a 3rd surgery, and so he's doing well, but he's in the ICU for a couple weeks. So this has just been a very tense couple of weeks for law enforcement because just a lot going on in the news. But I did speak with an officer earlier. He told me they're obviously upset by all this news, but they cannot let it distract them from serving the public. He told me just because it's in the news doesn't change anything, right? This is their every day. They put on that uniform, they risk their life every day, and they're willing to do what it takes to protect the community.
Through the years, I've had several friends who are officers and who have been officers, and something like this brings the community and an entire police force together so much. I'm from Westerville, and I remember years ago when the 2 Westerville police officers were shot and killed also from a domestic situation, and I attended that funeral, and I saw firsthand what it did for the community of Westerville, Ohio, which is in central Ohio, but then again, how it did bring so many people so much closer together. Something else that was said and mentioned from the pastor, and I love that he said, this Deputy Daniel Weston Sherrer, was really more of a peace officer because he brought peace to so many different situations. And that is quite a compliment for any member of any law enforcement agency, Taylor.
Oh, absolutely. He was told, I mean, many times we heard that he was constantly the one always looking to de-escalate the situations. I mean, he was shot while responding to a domestic situation, approaching it with obviously open arms, trying to figure out what was going on, and trying to de-escalate whatever the situation was. But he went into it with open arms, and obviously, unfortunately, it didn't go in his favor. But we heard multiple times that this is a cop that more people should be like. George Taylor, the other day we spoke with, he wishes more law enforcement were like him, always ready to strike up a conversation, hear you out, and just lead with empathy and kindness.
If someone is just joining us right now, I know earlier you were telling our viewers how many different agencies are represented. It's not just Ohio, but you're seeing law enforcement officers from across the Midwest. Can you go through those again, Taylor, for someone who's just maybe tuning in?
Oh, absolutely. So if you're looking at the parking lot right now, it is full of law enforcement from all over the state. The camera might be right now on Governor Mike DeWine awaiting this law enforcement ceremony that's taking place after the main funeral. But we saw an outpouring of support from law enforcement. I saw cop cars coming in from Danville, Delaware, Columbus, Ohio State Highway Patrol, the Sheriff's Department, of course, Perry Township, Warren, Mount Vernon, Montville, Village of Ashley, Shawnee Hills, Heath. I mean, some counties and cities that I have, being in Ohio, have never even heard of. So that just goes to show you they're coming in from all over. There are even officers here from as far as the NYPD, Dallas, and Chicago. So really just goes to show how much Deputy Sherrer means to the community and, of course, the law enforcement community as a whole.
How early did you have to arrive? Because I imagine people started filling in to that Northmore High School so early. This has been happening since what time, Taylor? Did it all get started?
So we've been here since about, I think, 4:30, Mindy, but that's
Wow.
TV for you.
Yeah.
But we did have to be here really early, and we were able to do our morning live shots, just preparing everyone for what's to come. And then it really started pouring in around 8:30, 9 o'clock. We saw the police cruisers start to arrive, and they wanted to block off this parking lot so that they could all have this really immense, beautiful showing of support so that no other civilian would park in this parking lot. They blocked it off specifically for the police cruisers. But we really started seeing the police cruisers start to come in around 9 a.m., and then it was a steady flow of traffic after that up until the start of the funeral at 11.
Again, you are watching live coverage of the funeral ceremony for Deputy Daniel Weston Sherrer. And as Taylor and I mentioned throughout this broadcast, we've been calling him Daniel, Deputy Daniel Sherrer, but we learned that more family and friends really called him Weston because his father's name is Dan. He goes by Dan. And when the mom would get mad and she would yell, Daniel, they didn't know which one they were talking to, either the father or the son. So even when he was just a young boy, Taylor, they decided to call Daniel Jr. Weston. And you learn so many different things at different funeral services, and it's all those sidebar stories that mean so much to so many people. This is a life and the legacy at just 31 years old, or I should say 31 years young, that will be felt and remembered across Morrow County for so many years to come, and really throughout the state of Ohio. And yes, there's Governor DeWine right there, Taylor.
Yes, absolutely. It looks like we're probably approaching the start of the ceremony shortly. We can see that I believe the family has now made their appearance outside of the high school. But again, what we're going to see here is your typical 21-gun salute. There are bagpipes that will be played. There will be a riderless horse over to the right. You probably can't see it right now, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 10 or 11 horses. One is riderless. And again, this is a symbol of remembrance used to honor fallen police officers. We're also told Columbus Police and the Ohio State Highway Patrol will perform what's called a missing man formation with helicopters in the sky. So in this formation, you're going to see one aircraft break away from the group, which symbolizes the missing comrade. Now, this ceremony is expected to last around 20 minutes. As you can see, everyone is getting set right now. It should begin pretty shortly. And the cops are being held at attention. It looks like they might be bringing out Deputy Sherrer soon to put him in the hearse.
Is everybody out of Northmore High School at this point? And if you could guess for us, are you looking at hundreds or thousands of people?
Oh, that's tough to say, Mindy. I'm heading over right now to the high school to see if I can see if everyone's made their exit. It looks like the family, the bagpipes are in formation. Everyone's lined up. I think they're about to bring Deputy Sherrer outside momentarily. I'm not good at numbers, but it's a big, big scene out here. I would say hundreds. I don't know if there's thousands, but the whole entire parking lot, as you can see, is full of law enforcement. Likely the family there in the middle. You see Governor Mike DeWine. Just an outpouring, immense support today for Deputy Sherrer.
And it's such an emotional time. Have you covered a funeral service for a fallen officer before, Taylor?
Yeah, of course. Obviously in this news industry, we cover a lot of these, unfortunately. I haven't covered too many. This was my first one, like you mentioned, with an open casket. And I was surprised at how, probably not surprised because I'm a very emotional person, but it evoked emotion right away when you got to see the open casket. But unfortunately, we've been covering too many of these in recent weeks. And I know that people keep saying, some police officers keep saying that there's usually an uptick in violence in the summer months. And so they're trying to work on ways to de-escalate situations and kind of prevent crime from happening, especially as summer months are about to be underway.
Yeah, absolutely. That's always a main concern, especially in the summer months. And there's no doubt about it, Taylor. Ohio has lost or have had injured way too many officers in these last couple weeks, and it's something that you think about. I'm a mom, and I have a son who's 23, a daughter who's 22, and that's right around the age where a lot of young people want to start thinking about law enforcement. And right now, you would worry so much because this is happening far too often, not just in the state of Ohio, but across the country. And that's why when you have a funeral service like this, and as Taylor, you've done a great job of updating us and showing us everybody who's there and involved, but you see an outpouring of support because these are our police and peace officers, our sheriff's deputies. These are the people who are supposed to, and they take an oath to keep us safe. So when one of them is shot and killed in the line of duty, it really hits home to so many moms, to so many dads. Whether you have an officer in your family or not, you all feel connected one way or another because that is their job to protect us. And it's just hard to see and witness, Taylor.
Oh, absolutely. The other day we spoke with the FOP president, Brian Steele, of the Capital City Lodge 9, and he was telling us that, some people ask him, why do we care if a cop is shot, right? And he said, well, a cop is what represents the community. So if you'll shoot a cop, you'll shoot anyone. And so he said that's why it's so important to pay attention when a police officer is shot. It's likely that person will shoot anyone. They don't care. And so, if they'll shoot a cop, likely no one's safe. And that's what he said. It's so important that we pay attention to this and try to stop crime and de-escalate situations now, especially as these summer months get underway, when they said there is usually an uptick in crime.
Yeah, I recently talked to Brian Steele as well, and my goodness, if there is a man who is so passionate about law enforcement officers and the agency itself. In fact, he told me that he is meeting with President Trump tomorrow with other law enforcement officers and FOP presidents from around the country to kind of get more of a grip on these situations so the country can see less situations where an officer is killed in the line of duty or even injured. And like we said, just here in Central Ohio and throughout the state, we've just seen it happen way, way too often.
I mean, yeah, we could recap real quick, just, you know, the recent things we've seen in recent weeks. It's been a tough few weeks for law enforcement. On the same day, Memorial Day, Deputy Sherrer was shot. A retired deputy, Larry Henderson, he was killed. He was directing traffic at the University of Cincinnati's commencement ceremony. He was volunteering to do this. You know, and investigators say he was intentionally run over by a man that had just watched body camera video of his 18-year-old son being fatally shot by police. You know, he probably was not in his right mind, but he did. Investigators say he intentionally hit and killed Deputy Larry Henderson. And then just last week on May 28th, we reported 2 Mifflin Township police officers. They were shot while conducting a traffic stop. Luckily, those 2 officers, again, they are in stable condition. The one who was in critical condition is now stable. He's now underwent at least 3 surgeries and we're told that he will be in the ICU for at least a couple weeks. So we're going to keep paying attention on his condition, but as of now, we're hearing that they're both stable. So there's just been a profound impact on officers all around the state. We're hearing news of people being shot or injured and shot and killed over the past couple weeks. But I spoke with an officer earlier again who told me they're obviously upset by the news. They pay attention to the news, but they cannot let it distract them from serving the public because that is their job. He told me just because it's in the news, it doesn't mean it changes anything because this is their every day. Every day they risk their lives putting on their uniform and they're willing to do anything it takes to protect their community. And we heard that from Deputy Sherrer, right? He wanted to be a police officer since he was 3 years old. He knew the risks that it entailed and he did it anyway because that was his dream and he fulfilled his dream.
You are watching and have been watching live coverage of the funeral service of Morrow County Sheriff's Deputy Daniel Weston Sherrer. Our Taylor Bruck has been there since 4 or 4:30 this morning doing reports for our morning newscasts and also throughout the day today. And you know what, Taylor, the one thing that we forgot to mention or didn't have a chance to mention yet was what I noticed as we were waiting for the pastor to speak and again for Attorney General Dave Yost to talk and for current Morrow County Sheriff John Hinton to speak. As we were waiting for all this to happen, as we were watching the open casket and seeing it there in front of us, you heard music. And normally it's very sorrowful, somber music. But this time, Taylor, I couldn't help but notice that you were listening to more upbeat, positive country music as a way of just to celebrate his life, not wanting people to be sad and sorrowful, but to just celebrate his life.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know if you can hear it through my mic right now, but there is still country music playing. That has been the theme all day long here. So I didn't ask anybody this, but you can assume that he may have liked country music and that's why it's playing. And again, like you said, it is a celebration of life. It is called a funeral service, but they made sure to write celebration of life online on the funeral home because they wanted to make sure that it was they celebrated a life well lived, taken way too young, was way too short, but he fulfilled what he wanted to do, right? He wanted to be a police officer. And we did hear from one of the people inside who spoke about how he might not like this attention on him. They said he was not one to like all this attention on him, but that he just wanted to do his job, but he'd be really happy to see the outpouring of support that's here today. And I don't know if you can see the camera right there, but again, just a parking lot full of law enforcement from all across the state, even as far as NYPD, Chicago. So people coming in from a long ways away for this funeral service celebration of life, Mindy.
This is something these officers and these sheriff's deputies will never, ever forget, and it'll mean something. It'll mean something the next time they have to go out on any call, but especially, I would assume, a domestic situation, which Sheriff's Deputy Daniel Weston Sherrer went out on Memorial Day evening of when he was shot and killed. It is a hard situation, but I am glad that they are playing more upbeat music because we do want to celebrate his life, even though he was only 31 years old. The difference he made from just listening to everyone speak at that memorial service, the funeral. My goodness, Taylor, the difference he made in so many people's lives, whether they met him for the first time or not. I could not believe when it was told during the service that a man who was wanted by the law came to that memorial service, not today, but the one that was held a couple days ago, in front of all of these sheriff's deputies and police officers. He still showed up, even though he was wanted. They didn't say specifically what the crime he was that he had committed, but he showed up to pay his respects for Deputy Sherrer. And Taylor, that's remarkable in itself.
Oh, absolutely. Mindy, I am seeing some law enforcement come out of Northmore High School right now. The door of the hearse has been opened, so I presume that Deputy Sherrer's casket will be brought out shortly. In the meantime, though, if you want to recap some of the funeral and just if we have some sound bites still from earlier, I'd love to play the one from Brenneman, the former Morrow County Sheriff Brenneman. He spoke about how Sherrer was always a curious man. He was inquisitive. He always sought knowledge. And they wanted to make sure that we knew that he was a family man. He is survived again by his fiancée, Alexandria, his sister, his two parents. He said he never took a moment to not say I love you to his parents and his family. He always made sure that he either sent them a text, called them, and made sure that they knew that he loved them. So I don't know if we have that soundbite, but I would love to listen to what Brenneman said about Weston's love for his family once more. Okay, sounds like we don't have it at this moment. But again, we also heard from Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost. We know that Governor Mike DeWine is also in attendance. He did not speak, but he is here awaiting this law enforcement ceremony. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost, he spoke about how on Sherrer's last day of life, he was hoping to stop violence. This has been the theme that we've heard from community members, the people speaking, that Sherrer was always one to try to de-escalate violence. And that was what George Taylor, a community member, wanted us to know, that, you know, he wishes there were more law enforcement like him out there. He was just that good of a guy. He said Deputy Sherrer always dreamed of being a police officer. The program, again, writing, "My big dream is to be a policeman. I want to catch the villains, and I'm willing to risk my life for the people in the United States." And he did just that, and we thank him for his service. We also heard from friend and teammate Franklin County's Deputy Sheriff Mike Brewer. He talked about the strength Sherrer demonstrated during the academy and while on the job. Brewer, again, was his partner while in training at the academy, 835 hours together, he said. And so he described his friend as a class act full of a lot of character. Mindy.
Taylor, in so many cases like this, just for you and myself and anyone watching, you feel kind of helpless. You wish there was something you could do, but there is, because this family is so generous that instead of giving flowers, can you give the information of where people are told that they can donate?
Yeah, absolutely. So in lieu of flowers, the family is requesting donations to be made to the Spirit of Hope Fund. Again, that's called the Spirit of Hope Fund. It's in care of Marion General Hospital Foundation. Deputy Sherrer's late uncle, former Marion County Sheriff John H. Butterworth, and his wife Phyllis actually started the fund back in 2013 to assist cancer patients in the area. So on the funeral's website, Snyder Funeral Homes, you can actually donate a tree. You can also give flowers, but they're asking, though, in lieu of flowers, to donate to this fund. We are hearing a call out. I think Deputy Sherrer's body and casket is being taken out of Northmore High School, if we want to listen in.
Yeah, let's do that.
Breathe in. Left, right, face. Ready. Hey. Left. Ready. Hey. Left. Ready. Hey. Left. Fire, get that low, check. Move. Freeze head. Oh.
5900 to 973. 5900 to 973. 5900 to 973. Negative contact with 973. All units stand by for the post. All units be advised, Deputy Daniel Weston Sherrer and his watch on May 26, 2025 at 21:30. Deputy Sherrer, we thank you for your dedication and loyalty you have served with courage and valor for the citizens of Morrow County. Your sacrifice for the Morrow County Sheriff's Office and the badge will never be forgotten. You will never be forgotten. Your final visit is complete. Rest in peace, we got it from here. Godspeed on your journey, sir. You will be missed by us.
You've been watching live coverage of the funeral of Deputy Daniel Weston Sherrer. Taylor, are you still able to talk with us?
Yeah. Yes, Mindy, I'm here. I mean, that was just a beautiful, beautiful tribute. It gave you chills. Just a beautiful tribute to Deputy Sherrer and his life. What you just saw here, if you just watched it, was your typical 21-gun salute. We saw bagpipes playing Amazing Grace. There was a riderless horse, which of course is a symbol of remembrance used to honor fallen police officers. The Columbus Police and the Ohio State Highway Patrol performed what's called a missing man formation with the helicopters in the sky. There were 4 helicopters, and at the last moment, one broke away and kind of floated off into the distance. That gave me chills. It was really powerful to watch. Now, in that formation, again, we saw one aircraft break away. That symbolizes the missing comrade. Now, traditionally, this ceremony would be held at the graveside burial service, but an officer told me earlier that they're doing it now because it's not logistically possible to get the sheer amount of law enforcement that is here inside the cemetery. I guess it is a smaller cemetery. So after this ceremony, which the procession is about to take off, a private burial service will be held at the cemetery. In terms of the route, I do have that written down somewhere. I'm not sure if I can find it right now. Actually, you know what? Yeah, I can't find it right now, Mindy, but just an absolutely beautiful tribute to Deputy Sherrer.
You know, the really strong emotional part, too, is when we all heard that final call, the end of watch, and that's that time-honored tradition where law enforcement is broadcast over their police radio. It's signifying the end of their service and just a beautiful way to acknowledge their sacrifice. That's always so emotional when you hear that end of watch call.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, there was the officers, they have been dismissed, but they are awaiting the procession route to start traveling. Deputy Sherrer has been loaded up in the hearse. They're just waiting for family members and the friends who are going to the private burial to get into their cars, and then they're going to take off on the procession route, and then this service will conclude.
Such an emotional time for so many people, and this has been going on all morning long. And I can tell you one thing, the family of Deputy Sherrer has to be so proud. When you see a moment like this, these time-honored traditions for your own son, it means so much, and you appreciate the sacrifice. You appreciate the men and women in blue, whether it's for a police department or a sheriff's office, and you would just be so proud. And I bet, Taylor, there's so much pride throughout that entire Morrow County community. It's a close-knit, very, very tight-knit community, and they feel like this sheriff's deputy was one of their own.
Oh, absolutely. The other day we heard from Morrow County Sheriff John Hinton, and he told us that he absolutely loves working in this community, that it is a tight-knit community. He called the outpouring of support surreal. Like I mentioned yesterday, there was a visitation here at Northmore High School from 1 to 7 p.m. Our Jenna Jordan was there covering it. Constant flow of people from the moment the doors opened to the moment the doors closed. Hundreds of law enforcement officers, the community members. We spoke with somebody yesterday who actually has a son in law enforcement, a young son at that, 22 years old. They told us that this is their absolute worst nightmare, having, a child pass away, especially in the line of duty. And so this has just been a really emotional past couple of days, but he will finally be laid to rest this afternoon.
Taylor, you've done an outstanding job reporting for us. You really made us feel like we were there, part of the service. So we do appreciate all of your work today. And I just want to end by saying all of our thoughts and prayers go out to the Sherrer family and also to the entire police force of Ohio and throughout the country as well. We'll be right back, everybody.